Okay, so let me simply pretend the OnePlus 6 just got announced today so we can talk and speculate about it, and let's just all pretend that this scratch does not exist. No, but all jokes aside, I got my brief hands-on time with the OnePlus 6 already a few weeks ago, and most of what I will be saying here, my speculation, what it is after all, will be based on that, since I can't just judge too much after that limited time. That's not possible. Unfortunately, I did not get my review on it in time to actually show you something, so we'll have to work with the photos and pictures that I got. But usually my first impressions already are very good, so let's see. Okay, now let's take a look at the pictures. And in case you have a problem with the pictures, blame the best camera phone at the moment on the market for, because that's what I took them with. So yeah, the pictures aren't all that great. But on the left side you can see the pearl white version, and on the right side you can see the OnePlus 5T, just as in comparison. Now here once again, I have to say this definitely is my favorite, because it felt very great with the matte glass and it just looks so nice with the kind of rose gold accents. So absolutely a stunner. If you want to be seen and you want to be recognized with that, then I guess this would be the version. Here is one thing that I don't quite understand, because every reviewer will get the mirror black version, which is the one out of glass here with the glossy one. Yeah, it feels good in the hand. It feels a little bit more bulky, I have to say. At least it felt like that due to the slightly different curves and finish. But it will attract a lot of fingerprints, and it's not something special like the other ones are, especially since this feels a lot like a V30. So I would have wished for to get actually the midnight black version or the pearl white version. But as you can see here, the camera, they changed the position now. It looks more like on the OnePlus 1. I like that a lot. They also moved the fingerprint reader a little bit. I will talk about that a little bit later. Then you can see glossy sides here on the glossy one, but matte ones on. And this is the one, the great one, the stealth version, the midnight black. Just looks so nice. It doesn't really attract any fingerprints, which is nice with the matte glass, and it feels very good. Obviously, I need a little bit more hands-on time to fully judge that, but with warm hands, it was nice and grippy, which was always an issue that I complained about on the OnePlus 5T with the black finish, not with the sandstone one so much. As you can see here, it actually looks almost a little bit thinner in some aspects, but I gotta tell you, it actually got bigger. It's, at least in general, because it got, maybe as you can see here, 1 millimeter shorter, but therefore it got like 0.5 millimeter wider and also 0.5 millimeter thicker. But due to different shapes, it feels thicker. Absolutely, that's the first thing that I've noticed. But overall, it feels still very nice. Very premium feel. Very sturdy, solid, especially the matte versions. The glossy one, yeah, feels like most glossy phones. So, yeah, that's it. Here you can see the different finishes. Let's just look at a video that I did. And it's not the very best one, since I expected to already have it in hand. But, yeah, let's take a look at it. So, once again, the black version. And let's just also talk a little bit about the specs so you get an overview of that in case you didn't get to them. So we have a Snapdragon 845. Yep. So power more than enough. We get the same size battery, so 3300 milliamp hours of battery. I will a little bit speculate a little bit later what I think of what it could reach. We get a 6.2 inch AMOLED display, still fully optical, and yeah, it looked really nice, at least on the brief hands-on time that I got with it. It looked very bright, it looked very clean. And the calibration, it was the one thing that I loved so much about the 5T. So I have high hopes here. Yes, obviously we have a notch, but it actually does hide the noise in videos, and you will get the option to hide it in general. But yeah, that's it. The speaker is there on the bottom. I asked them why it's not a dual speaker system. They said just they didn't have the space for a proper one in the earpiece, which kind of makes sense, because they said also they didn't want to make a dual speaker and then get kind of criticized for a bad one, so rather make a really good one on the bottom, which is okay, since the OnePlus 5T had such a good bottom firing one that was so loud and so kind of distortion free and quite quality good. And I would say, yeah, that is okay. I would still prefer a dual speaker system. It's not as good as on the S9 or something like that, but I never had a problem with the one on the 5T, and I think it's absolutely good enough. The software still Oxygen OS now, with obviously the gestures, if you have seen maybe on the OnePlus 5T already. You get that option to hide the notch and so on. Now the camera, just to talk a little bit about that. Now the main camera, the 60 megapixel cam, has OIS, which could make quite a difference, even though even they themselves said they wouldn't quite maybe call it a full flagship camera, because you just don't pay for the full flagship price. That's actually one thing that I always said. You usually pay like $300 more compared from a OnePlus 5T to all the high-end phones just for the cam. So in case you want the really, really good cam, but don't have to have the best one, and you're willing to pay just a lot less, I think this is a totally fair option. I never had a problem with the one on the 5T. I know people criticize it, but I mean, if they really want the very best camera, then they just have to shell out more money. That's just as it is. You can't have a proper flagship camera and pay 300 less. That's just not an option. Now, you can see the display, you can see the notch. The bezels are very similarly sized, but one thing that I wanted to actually get into is, for example, the fingerprint reader. Because of the new camera position, as you can see here, it actually moved a little bit lower. That is exactly what I always wanted, because the one on the 5T is a little bit higher, and you will see it in just a second, because with my finger stretched just normally, wait, let me just find that option. It should be there in a sec. Come on, let's just grab it. Okay, nah, still not. Yeah, with a normal stretched finger, I can easily reach it, which just wasn't the case on the OnePlus 5T there. As you can see now, I always had to stretch my finger. And that might be a small difference, but it is a big enough for me. Otherwise, in terms of buttons, what they also changed is, for example, now the alert slider is on the right. People have been complaining about, or they just preferred it on the right for easier access, and that's why OnePlus listened and changed that. The volume rocker is still on the same position. It's okay for gaming. I never really got into the way, but I prefer it on the right side myself. And the power button, I would actually wish for it to be lower, but still. Of course, we still have face unlock, which works ridiculously fast on the OnePlus 5T. Yeah, the notch. Let's not talk that much more about it. And let me quickly summarize it a little bit, but let's just keep one thing in mind. This is all just speculation. On about an hour that I had with the phone, with the talking and all that. So I will keep it brief since I just can't really judge too much. But design and in-hand feel, absolutely great. I still wish for the phone to be a little bit more narrow, but due to the new grip of the new materials, great. And everyone usually hasn't a problem with that anyway. Since I have smaller hands, I just noticed it all the time. Now the display, if it's about on the level as on the OnePlus 5T, I have no problems with that, because it was always very bright, had great calibration, and I expect the same to be here. The thing, obviously, with the notch. Speaker, it will be very loud, pretty sure of that, and it will be quite good in terms of sound. So that is definitely not a deal breaker. I actually don't really see any so far yet, but of course they will come up once I get to review it. Performance, Snapdragon 845, absolutely. Now battery, let's just speculate a little bit more, because from the experience that I have with the 845, this is what I can tell you. Since we have the same battery size with a slightly bigger screen though, and some people say the 845 is more efficient, this is the way I see it. For me, from my experience, the 845 is a little bit more efficient on mobile data, but a little bit less efficient on Wi-Fi. So I would expect you to get at least the same in terms of battery life on mobile data, but maybe even a little bit more if things work out right, but a little bit less compared to what you got with the 5T on Wi-Fi. Obviously, this will show once I have it, but overall in general, I expect it to be very, very similar, and that battery life for me was always good enough. I never had any issues to get through a proper, even heavy day with the OnePlus 5T. Software, the current version of Oxygen already is my most favorite most favorite software of all of them on Android, so it will be just if now we have gestures, which I won't really use anyways, and all those things. Camera. What I always liked about OnePlus 5T's camera app is that it is very intuitive and easy, convenient to use. The same will be the thing here. Now we have obviously portrait mode, we have bokeh mode, we have slow motion mode, we have now optical stabilization, which could definitely help in some situations. So overall, the whole package, if I see it very objective, then I would say it doesn't seem like a too big of a step compared to the 5T, because the 5T is still a fantastic phone. But I think they made all the little bit of slight adjustments, at least the ones that I complained about, and improved it, which makes me still actually very excited for this phone, because the in and feel now is noticeably better due to the different kind of shapes and curves and due to the finish. The fingerprint reader is now way better placed. And then all the rest, with even better performance. I mean, the Snapdragon 845 is, in my opinion, still noticeably more fluid, more consistent compared to the 835, so that's a step up. Battery life very similar. So in case you don't really care so much about the few things that I just mentioned, you maybe don't even need, you don't need to upgrade from the 5T. Especially since you can't get the 5T anymore, you shouldn't really buy that one, because if you think about getting the 5T, and that's one thing that asked me a few people in the last few days, I said, no, wait for the 6, go that, because I don't see any reasons, if you don't now have neither one, to go for anything that's not the OnePlus 6. So I don't want to speculate much more, not to make this video any longer, but I think it is just exactly what I wanted from the 5T and in a way better package. Now, if that's worth the money and all that, that's something we'll have to see. I can't really say much more than that yet. I hope to get my review on it soon. But other than that, let me know in the comments what you think about the different finishes and the few little changes that they did, and maybe some things that I completely forgot before. Now, for example, it's still not IP rated, but it is splash water resistant, because they said we didn't want to spend the extra money for the IP rating to keep the cost down, and then that makes sense. If it's just splash water resistant, that's way more than fine enough for me. I don't need to dip my phone in water. I don't see the reason for that. And even a quick one, maybe it could even survive, but we still have the headphone jack, right? Okay, until next time, bye.